I've been busy with projects and mostly bass related. And what I realized about music and this whole audio stuff, a lot of times we get into, how accurate the speaker is and, directivity and all these things. So we get an accurate reproduction. And you know what I remembered that I knew a long time ago? Sometimes you have to go back and remember something you already knew.
How much you like bass?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bass. Bass is so fun.
It is.
Bass is like the most fun. And
that's why we all start off with subwoofers and car audio,
Right. Exactly.
So the number one upgrade, if somebody has a somewhat decent system, but they don't have good subs, I would say number one upgrade. Forget Magic Beans. Forget
external amplifier.
Yeah, forget all that. The external amplifier should be part of that sub.
Right? Yeah.
Get yourself a nice sub, legit sub. Don't get a cheapy one that's $100 and something bucks on Amazon. I'm sorry, they're not going to do what they need to do. Okay, but get yourself, save up $500. Get an RSL Speedwoofer 10S or something like that. Or I think they have a less expensive one.
If they're even in stock, man. Like,
I know, but man, that will enhance your experience so much more. The rest of the music is just going to sound more full.
I'm sorry. What price range did you say to get?
I'd say like if you could save up $500.
Mm-hmm.
For cable? Yeah, that's about right.
Per cable, yes.
Yeah.
I think it'll do more than the cables, right?
SVS starts at $6.
Yeah. I think they have a RSL has a E10E, something like that.
Yeah. Isn't that like 400 or something? Like $399 or something like that?
Yeah.
No, exactly.
So I have a video I'm working on where it's kind of like, can you use car audio subwoofer drivers for home theater, right?
Yeah.
Can you do a home theater? Because I've always wondered, I see these home theater subs, right? They have a plate amp, DSP, all that built in.
All right.
Yeah. Right. But then sometimes you take out the driver or there's a driver, a picture of it, and you're like, that's cool. It's kind of cute, I guess. And then you see some of these car audio drivers, and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
All huge, right? And it's just not the same. I'm like the driver on some of these car audio subwoofers are ridiculous. Now, keep in mind, there's SQ sound quality. There's SPL competitions where people just don't care the quality of the sound of the bass, just more like extreme volume at like one note, right? And so some of those huge subs are for that. And then they have some that are kind of in between. They call them SQL. So they can get loud and they're supposed to be decent for SQ. Now, here's where I wanted to ask you something, Aaron. Okay. When it comes to drivers, and I'm looking at the TS parameters that tell you all about this, what are some hints that it's more like sound quality oriented?
I don't know. Like some people will say the QMS is what you need to look for.
And what is that?
The quotient of electrical signal or something. I don't know.
I hate to put you on the spot because it looks ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, there's calculations for all that stuff, but it's one of the components that feed into like QTS, which is like the resonant Q of the system, essentially, like the total Q of the system.
Total Q.
But you use that to figure out the enclosure size. Like that's one of the parameters. VAS, FS, Q.
How about for a simpleton who's just like, how stiff is the suspension? Is that?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I'd probably default to the SPL guys to see what they feel like makes the difference. But to me, it's really just the main difference would be like thermal handling and excursion.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else is just the enclosure aspect, like the different parameters or how you define the enclosure. Like, so if the suspension is super stiff, then it's going to need a larger enclosure, because if you match the enclosure to the VAS size of it, then it's going to be that resonant in that same size enclosure, and it's only going to become more resonant the smaller the enclosure gets. So does that make sense? So like if the VAS is like 4 cubic feet and the QTS is, I don't know, let's just say it's 0.8, then it's going to have to be at least a 4 cubic foot enclosure for it to not go higher than 0.8. And if 0.8 0.7 is kind of like the rule of thumb. So 0.5 to 0.7.
0.707, is that it?
Yeah, that's like, but I like 0.5. I think because that gives you a little bit more low end, right? So the higher that Q value is, the more punch there is, and people will call that like speed and punch.
Why you gotta flex on us all the time like that?
What?
I was just talking about how hard it is to press in on the cone, and then you start getting into 0.7.
I was wondering why you kept laughing. I was like, am I missing something right now?
No, he's always flexing on us. So
I'm flexing.
Is there something to this? How when they say that bass is slow, we kind of make fun of that, right?
Yeah.
But is there something to the effect where, let's say, a driver is so like the compliance, right? It's just so stiff,
right, that
like it takes a ton of power to move it just in one direction. And is it gonna like have like overhang? I don't know what the term is called, but like, is it gonna kind of just have? Is the amplifier gonna have a hard time kind of settling that? And is that a thing that you could perceive? Like, could you make an SPL subwoofer with DSP sound as good as a driver that's really made for SQ?
Yeah, I personally, I don't see the difference other than just power handling, right? Because the SPL guys are driving these things to crazy high levels, right? So that's the main difference. And you're paying up for that. But in like most car audio systems don't need to really dump thousands of watts into multiple subwoofers to hit 150, 160 decibels or more. So
yeah, I just feel like there is something to it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I personally don't believe so. I think that if the enclosure tuning is the same, and your response is the same, then there's no additional overhang. Because a frequency is a frequency. If it takes longer to play that frequency, then it's not playing the same frequency anymore, right? So
yep. It's slow bass, bro.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is. I'm pretty sure you guys have probably said this before too at some point, that it's just the difference between slow and fast bass. One aspect, at least, is that speakers that are or subwoofers that are considered to have fast bass just don't have low bass. So there's a lot of punch there to it, but there's not a lot of low end. So it's not really exciting the room with the other modal issues that you typically run into. So you don't hear those like extra long like ringings of 30 or 40 hertz, something like that, because it's rolled off by then, right? So, but then there's other aspects, I guess, to consider too.
I feel like if you take one of those huge like SPL drivers though, and you looked at the impulse response, I feel like it just looks like it would take longer to
settle out,
to go up and settle. It just looks like it. It just like I look at it, I'm like, that thing does look like
it'd be harder to move.
Like somebody in our group chat, they posted a subsonic like fan. Somebody made this fan, right?
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And I looked at that, I'm like, that looks very slow to respond. Like it can do
fan, yeah. So
it can do 20 hertz, right?
Yeah.
But it probably takes forever for that thing to spin up to the point where it can do 20. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So a friend of mine, I saw that. I didn't reply because I read it this morning, but a friend of mine in Oklahoma built one of those. And because he saw that, right? So it's been a while. I don't know if it's the exact same one you guys share, but my guess is that one's probably like 15 years or older, right? Maybe not, but it might be. So anyway, he built one at one point and played around with it, but I think it only covered like 15 to 30 hertz.
Oh,
because it just like, I guess the way it's made, I don't know all the physics behind it, but I guess the way it's made, it's just really no point in it trying to do any more than that.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. The other guy was going to like 1.
Yeah, no, it's like, it's stupid low.
Yeah. And the mom comes in like, what are you doing?
That'd be fun to build one just as a project, just to say you've done it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead, bro.
What you're telling me is it sounds like, Aaron, that I got to have multiple subwoofers. One to get you in the punch, and one to go down low, right?
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
One of them covers both.
Into it. Maybe people in the comments, you chime in. I just feel like a cone that seems like more compliant. It just seems easier to move. It would just be like a fan that's lighter. Like I feel like you could move it easier. So given the damping factor of the amplifier, it just seems like it would be able to control that better. And maybe there's something to it, even though I've made fun of it before, maybe there is. I don't know if it's audible, but I feel like that it would be measurable.
Yeah.
Now, if you can't catch the show, we do have an audio version at anchor.fm/daily HiFi. So make sure to go on over there if you like to listen to the show.